from the backstretch at historic Saratoga Race Course. This is Racing Across America with Seth Merrow. Racing Across America is brought to you by Pinnell's Restaurant, a Saratoga tradition since 1922. 284 Jefferson Street, Saratoga, just minutes from the track. And the Clubhouse Racebook, 711 Central Avenue, Albany. When you can't make it to the track, make it to the Clubhouse Racebook.
Good morning and welcome to Racing Across America on this Saturday morning, live from our Clare Court location as we kick things off. First Saturday of the meet. Highlight this afternoon going to be the Diana, the Sanford also in the mix for Saturday stakes action. We'll talk about that in a moment and more. A little bit later on, Joe Bianca, the popular Rail Talk podcast. He's one of the hosts, part of the West Point Thoroughbred team as well. He'll join us and more coming up this morning, but we're going to kick things off. As I say, we'll talk a little Diana, one of the entrants in the Diana coming out of the Graham Motion Barn. Happy to be joined by Mr. Graham Motion. Graham, good morning.
Hi, good morning. Thanks for having me.
Happy to have you here and talk a little bit about first, just we're back at Saratoga for another year and give us your feelings every summer when you come up here to Saratoga.
Yeah, I mean, it's great to be here. It's great to have horses to participate here. You know, not everybody gets the chance to do that, and I feel very fortunate to have the owners and the horses that belong up here, quite honestly.
And you're based in the Mid-Atlantic. I mean, is your base technically Fairhill?
Very much so, yeah. We have 70 horses at Fairhill, then we keep a small group at Delaware and a little group up here.
So you personally, do you bounce back and forth during the meet?
You know, yes, very much so. I mean, I'm obviously up here this weekend, but Alice, my traveling assistant who's been with me so long, she stays up here.
And what about your horses? Do you cycle them in and out up here as well?
Yeah, very much so. These guys that ran this week will go home on Monday morning, and my runners for next week will switch up. So we try to do it differently a little bit every year. The last couple of years, I've kept more horses up here, but I really feel comfortable having my horses at Fairhill. We're not weather dependent. We have the all-weather track. So, you know, sometimes we get caught up here when it rains for a couple of days, and it makes things difficult.
Where are you located here?
So I'm over in Oklahoma, right behind Shug's Barn, over in the high rent district.
and that's a great location over there. It's nice and quiet. You're right by the training track, which they widened last year. How do you like working out over on the training track?
I mean, I think it's been in great shape. I've been over there the last few years. I used to be over here with David Donk on the main track, but it's a little quieter on Oklahoma, and I find the surface very good. And of course, for breezing on the grass, it makes life a lot easier.
Speaking of the grass, we're on the grass this afternoon in the Diana. You have Mission of Joy. We're going to take a look going back to the Justy game right here at Saratoga just a few weeks ago. We have some horses coming back, including Mission of Joy. Chili Flag, the number 6, will win. Number 7, White Beam, second. And then Mission of Joy runs third. Evie Gents runs fourth. They're all back. And nice ding-dong finish. What were your impressions here a few weeks ago for Mission of Joy and your thoughts this afternoon in the Diana?
Yeah, I mean, I thought she ran huge here. I thought she was a little unlucky. She got carried a little wide on the last turn, considering she came out of the one hole. But you see here, I mean, she's getting there. Another few jumps. I think she gallops out in front. So I don't think the mile Nates will hurt her today. Actually, I think it might even suit her better.
Comes in again off of that third place finish, so seems to be kind of moving in the right direction. This is the third start off a little bit of a layoff. Raced in January, but end of January to May. As handicappers, we always look at that third start back and think, oh, as a trainer, is that a similar thought?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, from my personal point of view, my second race off of a big race off a layoff is my worst angle. Okay. I mean, I feel like so often when horses run a big race first time off a layoff, the second race is tough. But yeah, there is something to the third race off a layoff angle, no doubt.
And I'm curious, do you use numbers? And if so, which ones?
A little bit, not as much as I used to. We use Thorough Manager a lot because it's just so user-friendly for us looking at races and trying to decide which spots. And they also do numbers. Often in the stakes, we'll go and use either the Thorograph numbers or the rag numbers when we're trying to make up our mind if we belong in a spot.
And so what are your expectations this afternoon? I think you could point to 8 different horses and make a case in here.
Yeah, I think it's going to come down to trip. I think it's a wide open race. I think numbers will tell you it's pretty wide open. But this filly, you know, she's hit the board twice now in Grade 1s. I don't think she's too far behind these horses with a good trip.
So again, that's Mission of Joy this afternoon. I wanted to go back and talk a little bit about over the past few weeks some other runners and see if maybe there's some thoughts for these horses up here. And a horse I've liked. Folks who watch the show know I love the subdivision of the 3-year-olds on the turf. And that was the case just a few weeks ago. We're going to take a look at the Belmont Derby Invitational. Is it Tricari?
Trickery.
Trickery.
I called him Tricari, but the owner corrected us the other day, and it's Trickery.
I kind of like Trickery better, actually. But we'll look at the victory just a few weeks ago down at Belmont at the Big A in the Belmont Derby Invitational. Your thoughts on this nice little 3-year-old turfer so far? And will we get to see him up here? There are a couple of nice 3-year-old turf races up here.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a good possibility he comes back up for the Saratoga Derby. I mean, obviously the distance wasn't an issue for him this day. Johnny just gave him a beautiful ride. I mean, it was such a clever ride. But he's a really cool horse. I mean, apart from his first start where he ran very greenly, he hasn't done much wrong. I mean, he's only 2 necks from being undefeated since. So,
and you got to love that. I mean, as a bettor, if you've had, and I had used Tricari that day, and I love just gutsy would not let the other horse go by. Mentally, you have to love.
Yeah, and that's how he is. I mean, he's a tough racehorse. He's tough in the morning, not difficult, but he's just a very strong-willed horse who seems to thrive on training. And my only concern is I don't want to take advantage of that because he's kind of danced every dance so far.
And is he here or?
No, he's not here. He wouldn't come up until probably the day before if we decided to run.
Okay. And again, are you in the same ballpark I am as a trainer? Do you love the 3-year-olds on the turf? Because if you have a good 3-year-old on the turf, and that's why I like the division. Really, from the first of the year to the end of the year, almost every venue has at least one race in that division, subdivision.
There are so many options with the colts and the fillies, and I think, you know, even going a distance of ground, you can separate the distances, and it's unlike, you know, in Europe where often by now 3-year-olds are having to run against older horses. We still have lots of options.
Yeah, and they keep going. I mean, the Tropical Park Derby last week down at Gulfstream for the 3-year-olds. So to me, it's a very fun subdivision, certainly. I wanted to hit on another horse and see if, I don't know whether there's an option distance-wise for this one up here, but I wanted to go back again, the beginning of June. We're going to look at the Belmont Gold Cup. Hey, a quick 2 miles on the turf. It's going to be the Gray Wizard. Talk a little bit about this performance, and might we see this one up here? Is there an option?
There really isn't a great option for him up here. I mean, this horse really is a 2-miler. As you see from the race, he just gets up in time. You know, pretty cool idea. NYRA got together with the Victoria Racing Club, and he got a free berth into the Melbourne Cup with this win. So that's definitely something we're going to look at. That's the week after the Breeders' Cup. Kind of exciting to think about. But really, there isn't a great 2-mile option until actually in September at Kentucky Downs.
And I was in the winner's circle after this race, and somebody said, "Are you going to the Melbourne Cup?" And he said, "I like the idea," because you know, just honestly speaking, it's a big trip to go down there. But that would be great. I mean, we have here in America now, a lot of the horses will go over and try Royal Ascot, and that's always fun. We don't go so much over there. I'd love to see an American in the Melbourne Cup.
Yeah, the tough thing about the Melbourne Cup is the handicapping. You've got to get your horse well handicapped, which, you know, winning the Belmont race, it didn't hurt him too badly because it wasn't a Grade 1. Also the shipping, you know, it's tough. Yeah. The quarantine is tough. You have to do 2 weeks, I believe 2 weeks here and 2 weeks there, which is a lot, you know, taking the horse out of its routine. But it's a long way, but it's a challenge. I love a challenge. You know, you've followed me enough that, you know, I like to do the international races. It's exciting.
Yeah, it would be exciting for us, as I say, because normally we don't go that way so much. The Melbourne Cup. Have you ever been?
I have not been to the Melbourne Cup. I've been to Sydney. I've been to Randwick. I actually spent a month there, but I've never been to the Melbourne Cup.
I'd love that's one of the bucket list things. I was going to talk to you also about some horses this weekend. You said Millions preview day down at Colonial you scratched because they've had some weather down there.
Yeah, I think they had almost 2 inches of rain, you know, between yesterday and last night. So we had to make a decision last night if we were going to ship. I was worried they were going to come off the grass. The stakes are on the grass. The allowance came off, but I made the decision not to ship.
But tomorrow you do have some horses going at Laurel, so we'll get a little heads up on some of those runners. The Jamila, you have Money's Worth in there. What do you think of Money's Worth tomorrow in the stake?
I think she was second in this race last year. She's pretty consistent, this mare. It's a tough enough race for a Maryland-bred race. There's some decent fillies, Mike Trombetta's filly, Brittany's filly. So it's a competitive race, but she's pretty consistent.
Nice full field in there. Laurel has a nice stakes program. I know you said after my show you're going to be on the air with Frank Vespi. Say hello to Frank. I have Frank when we're down in the studio doing things by phone. The rest of the year, I talk to Frank a lot during the wintertime because Laurel during the winter has a great stakes program. It's like every 3 weeks there's a big stakes Saturday down there. Yeah,
that's where my bread and butter's come from. It's where I started, and it's where I still like to race the most. It's only an hour from Fair Hill or an hour and a half. So that's where we run a lot, and mostly in the winter, that's where we run.
Yeah, and as I say, it's about every 3 weeks or so, and we'll either get Frank on the phone or Dave Robb. I always like to talk to Dave too, and I always like to talk to Dave around Thanksgiving time because Laurel Park, one of the best racetrack giveaways of all time, the pie they give away.
Absolutely, the pie.
As opposed to Pompano Park a few years ago, they gave you a cake plate. You didn't get the cake, you got the plate.
I think it's been a tradition for a long time at Laurel to do the pie.
And Dave says it's always very tempting because he gets the aroma wafting up into the booth. So. Also tomorrow, we have the Prince George's County. You'll have Hard Spun Reason in there. And you say Highland Chief was cross-entered today at Colonial, but he'll go obviously tomorrow now at Laurel. What are your thoughts on those two in the stake tomorrow?
Yeah, I'm looking to get Highland Chief back to his old form. He's a Grade 1 winner. He should handle this race. He trained great over the winter, and I think maybe I ambitiously placed him going a mile and a half, first time back. Since then, we've shortened him up. Pimlico was so soft that day on Preakness Day. It's a little bit hard to judge that race. So I think we go into this race with no excuses. And actually, Hard Spun Reason's an interesting horse. He's won 3 in a row now, and I don't think he's going to be too far behind these horses.
And again, the most recent race was the seasonal debut at Laurel, so we'll take a look for that one as well. And again, those stakes are tomorrow at Laurel. That's smart placing by them to, this time of year, pop into a Sunday. Before you go, I wanted to talk because you're a guy I know who has opinions on the topic of really that's at the forefront of the game over the past decade or so. I had Andy Belfiore in yesterday, and I know NITHA is big on the aftercare, and it's become a topic over the past 10 years or so, horse health and whatnot. You had a really nice column in the Baltimore Sun, a nice op-ed on Preakness weekend, the deeper culture of safety. I want you to talk a little bit about, now that we're a little into HISA, your thoughts as a horseman there, but also talk a little bit about a couple of the things you mentioned in the op-ed that I found intriguing. And as we've had people in here over the last year or so talking, I think it's going to be very interesting. Technology, I think, is going to play a big part. Wearable technology, and you mentioned big data as well. Talk a bit about your thoughts, how this has progressed over the last couple of years.
Yeah, there's so many new formats that we're using now to measure a horse's gait, to measure their soundness. I know in Kentucky and in New York, they've been using these devices where they actually measure the stride of the horse, and they can actually pick up if a horse isn't using himself correctly. And I think this is only going to improve. And I think, look, any way we can improve the safety of the horses, that's what this is all about. We want to do that. And I think we've come a long way. And I think HISA's been a big part of that. A big part of HISA has been the safety of the riders and the safety of the horses. And the longevity of them. And I think that's what's so important. Look, HISA's not without hiccups. It happened very quickly. They were kind of thrown in the deep end, if you like. And I think some of that to the trainers came off. It put some trainers in very difficult positions. And I think that's a shame. I kind of wish HISA had a year to get things going, but that wasn't the case. They didn't have the option. So, look, I think it continues to improve. I think there's no doubt we're in a better place now than we were pre-HISA.
Yeah, it seems like as tracks and jurisdiction are putting out numbers, it does seem like we're moving in the right direction. I think that's great for the game as well. And as I say, you've been vocal about that. And if people haven't read the op-ed you put out Preakness weekend, you can catch that online. As I say, I'm going to be interested to see how the technology, and as you mentioned, the big data, I don't think, horse racing is oftentimes slow to embrace things, but I think if we can get into some of these things, and I think we're kind of moving in that direction, I think it'll certainly be helpful moving forward. forward. And as you say, I agree that HISA has had some hiccups. They seem to be open, though, to recognizing that and then readjusting. Unfortunately, some trainers have kind of had to wait for that to happen. And as you said, there have been some unfortunate situations, but I certainly think overall it's been positive.
Yeah, and I think, I think probably we're scrutinized in the United States now, perhaps more than most other countries. And I think that's probably in the long run a good thing. We need to work through these hiccups, and it's a shame that some trainers have had these issues they've had to deal with. But I think ultimately we're going to be better off. And it's so important. We live in a different world nowadays with social media. We have to stay ahead of the game.
Yeah, and I know you're active on social media. People can check you out on Twitter or X. Do you ever refer to it as X?
No.
I never. And in the newspaper, they still say so and so put this out on X parentheses, formerly Twitter. And all right, we will certainly root for Mission of Joy this afternoon. Graham, wish you a lot of good luck in the Diana. Look, hopefully, Tricary Trickery comes back up here. I've been very high on him this year, so we'll look forward to that one and more. But appreciate the visit this morning. And say hello to Frank when you're on with him.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the Diana's been a race I've been trying to win for a long time. I've had several very close calls, at least five or six.
I had Dave Grenigan here, and he noted not just your training career, but he said even when you were working for Jonathan Shepard, you had a close call.
That's right. I galloped a filly called Wooing for Jonathan, and she won the Diana and got taken down. So it's been a tough one for me, but we're going to get there one day. Maybe today's the day.
Talk a little bit before we let you go about memories of Jonathan Shepard. He was my all-time favorite trainer. He'd come up here every year and have a big score for me, and I just think he was kind of a professor, it seemed like.
Yeah, I mean, look, Jonathan, I owe most of what I have to Jonathan and Bernie Bond, who I worked for in Maryland, and they were two great teachers, two different ends of the spectrum. Jonathan, known for long on the grass. Bernie Bond he always won the first 2-year-old race every year. So I had a really diverse introduction. And look, I think of Jonathan most days. Most of what I do is based on his training style. And it's not a coincidence that we do well with horses on the grass over long distances. That was Jonathan's bread and butter.
Yeah. As I say, I'm a big fan of people who watch the show. I'll be over in the front side, and people will still say to me, no Shepard today, and because I would always be on board with Jonathan Shepard. Shepard's coming up from the Mid-Atlantic.
And I think he was leading trainer a couple of times up here because the steeplechase races counted as well, and there were more steeplechase races back then. But people forget that he was several times leading trainer up here.
And the crazy 4-decade streak of having a winner up here every year. Yeah. Again, Graham, really appreciate your stopping in this morning. Good luck this afternoon and the rest of the meet, and we'll talk again.
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right, we'll take a break. When we come back, we'll continue on this Saturday edition of Racing Across America. Stay tuned.
Capital OTB is now streaming live on Roku. The RTN Racing channel on Roku lets you watch OTB TV live through your Roku device or your Amazon Fire Stick, rather than being limited to computers and mobile devices, which means you can now watch OTB live wherever you are. Simply open Roku, scroll to find the RTN channel, then click on OTB TV. OTB TV on Roku. Try it now.
Come on.
I want sales reports on my desk by Monday.
Whoops. My bad.
Love racing? RTN brings you every live simulcast on your home television, plus live video streaming and race replays on your PC and mobile devices. To order, visit rtn.tv. RTN, a breed apart.
Welcome back to Racing Across America. Again, live from Clare Court. Happy to be here. Always happy to be here in Saratoga. We started last week, did some test shows, and I think it worked out because the last couple of days, picture's been great, and thumbs up. We're now 3 days into the official meet, and things are working out well for us. Hopefully they're working out well for you, and we'll see how they're working out well for our guests now. Joe Bianca, I've known Joe for quite a few years, going back to the Steve Bick barbecue days.
Yeah, I was just telling Kim over there, that was like my first racing job, was slinging barbecue over on the front side. And that's how racing can get its hooks in you in a myriad of different ways, and that's kind of how it got me started.
Again, Joe Bianca has the very popular Rail Talk horse racing podcast. We'll hit on that. He's also part of the West Point Thoroughbred team, so we'll hit on all of that this morning. But yeah, Joe, welcome, and why don't we start out with the Rail Talk podcast? And just, I have a couple of graphics. I have you and your co-host. Then I have a graphic that'll show the folks the website if they want to go check out the podcast. The podcast, to me, when I look at the subjects and whatnot, a lot of podcasts are kind of personality driven. It seems like you guys are more kind of news driven. Is that a good analysis?
Yeah, absolutely. Like we try to have the freshest take, and not just to come up with a hot take out of, for the sake of having a take, but just to have the analytical take on all the news of the day and kind of just be a no nonsense podcast. You know what I mean? There's a lot of industry friendly podcasts, I think, in this business, and we try to cut through that noise and just kind of, we named it Rail Talk because, for one of the reasons we named it that was because we kind of wanted to emulate the conversations that people have on the rail over here on the backstretch or at the Oklahoma. So I think that's what we're trying to do, is to bring those conversations on camera.
So give us a little feeling for recently what have been some of the hot topics in the racing game.
Well, yeah, I mean, unfortunately, like we have a new HISA ruling every week, so we've been breaking that down a little bit. The Game of Silks news we talked a little bit about this week, about how that might be going under. So that's kind of a thorny issue right now. And then just in general, we like to talk about the broad scope issues like horse safety. How are we doing on the drug problem? Because these are major issues that take a lot of pressure and a lot of work from a lot of people over the years. So that's something we hit on a lot.
Yeah, and certainly that has been big news over the past, George Weaver. I just talked with Graham about HISA, and we were saying, and he made the great point, and I think it's true, they just had to kind of come into being so quickly. Like he said, if they had about a year to maybe work things out, and unfortunately, the way things are set up, some trainers have gotten caught up in situations that eventually maybe work out or will work out. It's been kind of a tough situation. Overall, I think it's a good thing that the industry nationwide has uniform rules, because going back to, the early days when I was kind of just jumping into the game, there'd be a different rule on the drug issues. Right. So sometimes it'd be, you can't use this here in this state, whereas you can over in this state. And so I do think uniformity is a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And having everyone push in the same direction, I think, is so big. And I agree. Like, you look at the situation that happened in Louisiana recently. That was one of the things that we really banged on the show, was the Louisiana Racing Commission pretty much knowingly making horses less safe, making it easier for drug trainers. And the industry pressure and industry response from that was so heartening to me. And I don't know if we get that 5 years ago in the pre-HISA world. I think that now there's such a unified voice in favor of clean racing and safe racing that I think that HISA has been at least a catalyst towards that. I mean, you're right. Like, the rollout has been bumpy, but it's not easy to civilize this piece.
Yeah.
It's not easy to get 33 different racing jurisdictions on board. I think they've done a remarkable job, relatively speaking. And I think what's been great, and what's been great with Lisa in particular, is the openness to feedback.
Exactly.
And they haven't gotten everything right. But there are a lot of people who have a seat at the table who I think wouldn't have had a seat at the table in prior administrations, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, for folks who aren't familiar with that Louisiana thing, that was the wackiest. All of a sudden, it comes out that Louisiana is essentially like, yeah, we're going to allow a bunch of drugs that
Right.
nobody else is going to allow at this point. And I think everybody was kind of like, what?
I know. They really thought that they could slip that in under cover of night, and thankfully the racing industry wasn't having it.
Yeah, that was a bizarre situation, certainly. For folks who haven't yet tried out Rail Talk, when does a new one come out every week?
So we usually record early in the week. There's not a set day, but usually it comes out Tuesday or Wednesday. This week I'll be at Saratoga, so I'm coming back on Wednesday. We'll probably put it out on Thursday.
Okay.
Up.
All right. Sounds good. And for folks who aren't familiar, the co-host, talk a little about.
Yeah, John Green. So John is the general manager for DJ Stable. DJ Stable has obviously they've had champions. They had Jaywalk a handful of years ago. They had Wonder Wheel 2 years ago. John and Len see, that's a great example of the show, because we're always laughing. We're always trying to have a good time. We talk about serious topics, but we try to keep it light. But yeah, John is one of my good friends going back from my days at the TDN when we were on the Writers Room podcast. We decided to start this new thing together, and he's a smart guy and has a lot of integrity, and wants the best for the horse, wants the best for the industry. And I think that's the main thing. And I include you in this, Seth. Like, you have the right people who have the right intentions in front of the camera, working behind the scenes, whatever position of influence you have, as long as we have those right people in charge, I think we're in a good spot. And John and you are those people.
I appreciate that. And we didn't mention your time at the TDN. You were at the TDN for quite a while, and yeah, had the podcast over there as well. So, yeah, the barbecue turned out okay for you.
Yeah, I know. It's always a full circle moment coming back here, and now I'm buying the concessions. I always tip well. If you've ever worked one of those jobs, you got to tip, because you've been on the other side.
I miss the barbecue.
Me too.
Yeah, that back porch used to be like a congregation of trainers would be back there, fans, Vic, obviously.
You'd have like the Thoroughbreds seminars there. Yeah. Those are fun times.
And I was just talking to Vic the other day, remembering back, and he told me how many years ago it was. He used to do the radio show in the afternoon from back there as well. That was a lot of fun.
Exactly. Yeah, those were good times.
Also mentioned you're with West Point Thoroughbreds, our friends at West Point, Terry Finley and Tommy Bellhouse, Jason Blewett, now you. And there are some West Point runners that maybe you can give us a little update on as well. Today in the 7th race, we have a first-time starter, Moment's Notice. Christophe Clement runner going out for West Point and Company. What are the expectations for a Moment's Notice this afternoon?
We like him a lot, and Christophe is the kind of guy, he's not going to force a horse into a race this early in the meet. He's going to run them when they're ready, and he's just one of these horses that's hit every single mark coming out of the sale. It's interesting. We bought him from the Randy Miles consignment at the OBS April sale. We bought Carson's Run, grade 1 winner from him last year, and he's like, I think I got another chestnut for you. And this was him. This was Moment's Notice, and like I said, he's come out of the sale, done everything right, great mentally, very sharp physically. But you look at the race, Seth, and it's just one of those loaded Saratoga maiden races. So he could run as well as we think he's going to run and still be 4th or 5th in there, but it'll be great to get him started.
That is the thing about Saratoga. You can think, man, we got a live 2-year-old, and then you open up the PPs for the race, and you're like, oh, everybody else has one too.
Exactly. But that's what makes it fun, to handicap, to spend time watching these horses.
And well, I'm going to get a little thought. It's Million Preview Day down at Colonial, and Graham was in here. He had some in the Beverly D preview, and he said he scratched them because they had some weather. But I checked when you sat down. Integration still set to go in the Million Preview on a course that will be less than firm, obviously, with the weather. And we'll talk about Integration in a moment. But I wanted to kind of remember it was last year, just a kind of a similar situation to this. I had you scheduled on the show, and I got a text, and you said, "Oh, I can't make the show. I'm going to the Virginia Derby." But you said, and I think it was a Saturday.
It was Million Day. It was actually his Million Day.
And you said, "Oh, but I can come, Sunday."
Yeah.
And I'm like, how's that going to work? You're going to, the private jet ride. It was the private jet ride. And then when you came in on Sunday, you were mentioning the turbulence, and wasn't it like you and everybody else is white knuckle, and wasn't it like
Johnny V? I looked over at Johnny V, and he's just smiling. Like, I've been on worse plane rides than this. I was scared to death. I really that was the first plane I've ever taken where I really thought I was going to die. And I was like, it was the kind of thing where it was like all these all-star trainers and jockeys on the plane. So I wouldn't even gotten a mention in the story. It'd be like Johnny V, Sharita Mo, and others. So I would have been others. But yeah, that was a scary ride. But that's obviously can't complain too much about the private jet.
Yeah, but again, so it was a cancellation on Saturday. But so I thought of that this morning. I'm looking at my phone, thinking, I wonder if we can get the private ride down for Millions preview. But Integration today, nice little turf runner for West Point. I mentioned it with Graham. I love the 3-year-olds on the turf, and certainly he was very nice last year with the debut victory, and then in the second start of the career of the Virginia Derby. But give us some thoughts this afternoon down at Colonial for Integration.
Yeah, I mean, Graham's horse looks pretty formidable in there, but I think otherwise it's
Graham's horse is out.
Oh, okay, even better for us then. So yeah, he's the kind of horse who had a tremendous 3-year-old season, 3 blowout wins, and he didn't quite get there in the Pegasus. He had a tough trip. Keeneland, I think the course wasn't to his liking. He was a little bit wide. He's just one of these horses that he's so good. It's tempting to just run him in a grade 1 every single race, but I think he's the kind of typical horse who needs a confidence builder. After the way he started his career, he's had a couple of races where he finished off the board. I think this will be a good spot, hopefully, to get a confidence builder, win hopefully by open lengths, and then use that as a springboard to the million, because he's a lightly raced horse. There's going to be plenty of big races for him in the future, but I think Shug just kind of wants to get him that race against slightly softer company to get him going again.
Yeah, he is a relatively light race 4-year-old with only 6 starts so far, but has been very productive. I'm sad we're not going to see him up here, but I don't blame you taking a shot at the million down there, certainly.
Yeah.
Particularly with the experience over the course so far.
Exactly.
You know, you mentioned the sales. I know when I get the West Point guys in, we talk, they're always very active at the sales. Have you been part of the sales process so far this year, and which sales have you gone to?
Yeah, so I'm not part of the buying process. We leave that to Terry Finley and David and Gordo. But yeah, I was down at the OBS March sale, OBS April sale, which is fun if you haven't been there before. It's a great atmosphere. They have like the tiki bar, like the back ring where everybody hangs out. It's a low key but really exciting vibe. So yeah, I've been to those two. I was at the Facing Saratoga sale last year and the New York Bred sale. I'll probably be back up here for those as well. But the 2-year-old sales are really fun just because you get to see them run a little bit. You know, it's so much projection with the yearling sales that the 2-year-olds getting to see them with a saddle on their back and just kind of, and it's the other thing too, especially the April sale, the proximity to the Derby, I think gets people dreaming so much about, hey, I could be back here in a year from now with this horse getting ready for the Kentucky Derby. So did you guys pick up some interesting 2-year-olds that we may see up here, beyond moment's notice? Yeah, I mean, he's at the head of his class right now in terms of being ready to start. But we do have a couple other ones. We had Keep It Easy, who won at 23-1 at Churchill Downs a few weeks ago. He's going to be pointing to the Saratoga Special for Dale. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. I don't think there's anyone else that's like super close to a race. But yeah, definitely second half of the meet, I think we'll have a handful of starters. A couple of nice New York breds. We got a filly named Kyla's Cause. Tom Morley's going to hate me for pumping her up because he never wants to tout his horses. But she's pretty nice. She's by Daredevil, so you might want to look out for her in a New York bred main race in the second half of the meet.
We'll keep it on the down low.
Yeah.
And again, as you've alluded to, the Facey Tipton sale and the earlier sales, you guys, some groups like the yearlings as opposed to the 2-year-olds, some like the 2-year-olds as opposed to the yearlings, you guys are good jumping wherever there's an opportunity. Yeah, I always say like use the baseball analogy. Like, you want to hit a home run, I think you should go to the yearling sales because that's where you can find like the blue blood pedigrees where you'll have residual value too if the horses do well on the track, potentially as a stallion or as a broodmare. I think the 2-year-old sales are kind of more like trying to hit doubles and triples. Like, you'll have more horses, I think, overall get to the track. You just might not have those superstar pedigrees where you'll get like a stallion out of it. So I think you want to hit for average, go to the 2-year-old sales. You want to swing for the fences, go to the yearling sales. And again, West Point very active at the sales, and West Point also you can keep up with and look to see where their horses are entered on their really nice website. I don't know whether I think I did pull up the graphic with the West Point. Yeah, there it is. West Point TV. And whenever I have the West Point guys, I say that's one of the better partnership websites. You can really easily keep up with where all the horses are entered, like kind of even looking forward in the condition books a little bit. So I recommend people stop by there. If you're thinking about ownership, there are many different groups and many different levels, but you can certainly check out the West Point site for folks who may be thinking in that direction. And I always ask, particularly up here at Saratoga, on the partnership side of things, it's fun to have a horse. It's great to go into the winner's circle, but a big part of it, particularly up here at Saratoga, is just the social aspect. Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's one of the things I always tell prospective partners. Like, if you're coming up to Saratoga, we're here over at the coffee stand every morning from like 6:30 till 9-ish. So it's a great camaraderie building experience. You have breakfast, the trainers, the jockeys stop by. So you really feel like you're in the action. You're behind the velvet rope. So I agree. Yeah, the camaraderie aspect is a big deal. And just meeting new friends, getting new experiences, that's something that's great. Especially for us, like, we're industry veterans. Yeah. It's great to see like new people coming into the game and realizing all that there is to offer. Yeah, and you become an owner, and you get the access, and you're in the paddock, and what other sport does that have? Right. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. And I always say when I get the West Point Tommy or Terry in here, And I think it's going to be the same this year. They changed things around the Jim Dandy bar, but a lot of times I'll walk from the paddock into that bottom floor of the clubhouse, and a lot of the West Point people, when there's a West Point horse running, are watching that big screen.
Yep.
It is great to watch. As if a West Point horse is making that move at the 8th ball, it's very exciting.
Dude, we'll be there. We'll be there the 2nd and the 7th today, and then the 6th and the 7th tomorrow. But we were up here for Saratoga Belmont at Saratoga. And this is what I love about West Point Partners. We had Ohana Honor in the Manhattan, and he was in a close photo for 3rd. It took forever to put the photo up, and they put the photo up as a dead heat for 3rd. And you would have thought we just won the race. Like, everyone's so enthusiastic to get that grade 1 placing. So people, they really know, it's not just about winning. It's about your horses showing up and running big in big races. And what could be more exciting than that?
I didn't hit on the other one today and the 2 tomorrow. What should we be looking for there?
Yeah, so we got Northern Invader in the Kelso today.
I had that on my notes. In fact, yeah, another really nice horse is in the Kelso today.
Yeah, for sure. He's another one we're kind of looking for a little bit of a bounce back for him. We had high hopes for him as a 3-year-old. Just hasn't quite taken that next step, but I think today, short field, should work out a good trip. So I think today is the day he'll take a step forward. And then tomorrow we've got 2 horses. We've got Sunday Tiff, who's a maiden in the 6th race, I believe. And she's in a turf race that I think she'll be a good price. And we like her. There's another Morley horse. He's going to kill me. She's just getting steadily better and better. So I think at 15 to 1 or whatever she's going to be, she's worth throwing in. And then we got Battle of Normandy in the 7th race. He was a really nice horse as a 2-year-old and 3-year-old. Just had a win at Aqueduct last time out, stretching out to 1 mile and 3/8. I think he's live too.
All right. And nothing like getting some wins on opening weekend at Saratoga. So we'll look for you. We'll look for you watching the TV, and we'll look for you guys maybe in the winner's circle as well. But Joe, appreciate it. Remind people once again, this week's podcast you're expecting on Thursday.
Yeah, it should come out on Thursday. And if you want to follow us, we're Rail Talk on Twitter, on Instagram, on YouTube. Really appreciate the YouTube subscriptions because that helps us monetize. And anywhere on social media you can find us.
Yeah, we always say same thing with us. Subscribe, give the thumbs up, make a couple of nice comments. It all helps the algorithm and more, as you say.
Yeah.
Joe, we appreciate the visit this morning. Have fun at the meet. Good luck with the West Point runners over the weekend. We'll talk again.
Thanks, Seth. Always a pleasure.
All right, we'll take a break. When we come back, Kim Weir is in the house. As I noted earlier, things got a little juggled up, but Kim's always available and always more than happy to come over, which we absolutely appreciate. But Kim's with a new organization this year, so we'll catch up with all of that right after this. Stay tuned.
Why just watch the races when you can be in the middle of the action? For nearly 20 years, Bonaventure Stables' share-based ownership program has made thoroughbred ownership affordable for the everyday fan. Ownerships of 5 and 10% are now available on a nice selection of horses. As a partial owner with Bonaventure Stables, you'll enjoy all the benefits afforded every owner. Visit with your horse in the private stable area. Greet the trainers and jockeys in the paddock. And when your horse wins, savor the moment in the winner's circle at Saratoga, Belmont, Aqueduct, or wherever you bring home the prize. Based in historic Saratoga Springs, Bonaventure Stables has been training winners and creating memories since 2005. Learn more, see available horses, and meet our team at bonaventurestables.com.
Saratoga makes a
Back to Racing Across America, and I'm laughing because it seems like it's always the first weekend. I lose a guest, but I get on the phone and Kim Weir comes because she's always bouncing around the track anyway. So I had a pretty good feeling we would be able to get Kim to sub in, and she's with a new organization this year. We were going to have you on anyway, and we'll still do that. Maybe a little more of a formal visit, but happy filling in this morning. And Kim, good morning.
Well, good morning, Seth. It's truly summer in Saratoga when we get together on this stage. What a treat to be here.
Yeah, it's again, happy that you were able to fill in with a late scratch. But as I say, I was going to have you anyway, and we will do a formal visit. But fill us in. You're now with Therapeutic Courses of Saratoga, and when I have you on next time, you invited me out for a tour. You had a whole little tour group 2 weeks ago or so. So I bounced around and I got some video right outside of Saratoga, 10 minutes from the track, not even probably. Therapeutic Courses of Saratoga. And when I have you on next time, we'll show the video. But fill us in on the organization.
Yeah, it's really been a wonderful new chapter for me. I like to say it's the same herd of retired racehorses, but it's a different pasture. This pasture happens to just be right outside of town. We have 29 retired racehorses. They are both thoroughbreds and standardbreds. We're representing Saratoga completely with our aftercare for those horses. And while we are still very actively part of the thoroughbred aftercare world as a sanctuary farm, our role is to put them back into the community in the role of equine therapy animals. So that's our name, Therapeutic Courses of Saratoga. We are giving the horses and building that horse-human connection with all sorts of populations in our community. And it's such a treat to be in a new role that is very much singing from the same songbook, just a slightly different song.
And again, I was out there the other day. It's just kind of up the street, and it's a nice facility. How many horses are there?
29 horses. Yep.
And are they all retired thoroughbreds or standardbreds?
Well, not quite. They are the predominant.
I know the two little guys are.
Yes, we have a couple exceptions, and they're the two littlest ones. We do have two minis, and they are they punch above their weight as therapy animals, though. In fact, they even come indoors. We're taking them to the community. So two minis that are not retired racehorses. We also have the two Saratoga Springs police horses that live in our farm. So one of those, Brady, who looks like Fabio, is a Belgian cross, and then Apollo is a standardbred. And I don't actually know whether Apollo ever raced, but otherwise, 25 of them are racehorses.
I like that. It looks like Fabio. So,
yes, he looks like Fabio. He's very, very handsome.
Good. When you sat down, you said you had a couple of events, and you had invited me to the beer launch. And unfortunately, I had something else going on. Looking forward to that, but talk a little bit about the beer launch the other day.
Yeah, on Wednesday, we kind of made this official. This is an amazing project. It's been months in the works long before I was around, but I just get to talk about it, my favorite thing. So it is really a kudos to the Scott and Chris Martell, the Druthers brothers, as we like to call them, from Druthers Brewing Company. They reached out to Therapeutic Courses Saratoga, totally thanks to my colleague Meg Koloski, and said, we'd like to create a beer that we're going to dedicate the proceeds of that to Therapeutic Courses Saratoga. Amazing gift, an amazing idea, and it has launched. It is called Horseplay, which is horse players can appreciate that. It's named after them. And it has actually artwork on the can that was donated by Frankie Flores, our local, very internationally renowned artist. So the can alone's beautiful. And I'm happy to say, I think you and I have raised a frosty glass or two over the days. And this is a beer that is easy to drink. It is light. It's a blonde ale with a little bit of peach that comes from the Whistling Kettle. It's a collab, as they say. This beer is now...
And
Boston Spa. Yeah. It's like a total Saratoga thing. Like, it's just really neat, all these different pieces. The Dick Crescenti team is distributing it. So it is actually on sale at the track, which is great. I haven't yet spotted the spots, but I know it is on sale on track. It's certainly at all 5 Druthers locations, and it's actually being pushed out through retailers all around the region. So when I come back, maybe I'll bring a can. I promise it won't be open, and we can show the viewers what the can looks like, because it's really pretty cool.
You might be able to get away with open.
Well, I would be happy to try.
and what is the actual name of the beer?
Horseplay.
Oh, yeah, you said that. Horseplay. Yeah, very good. So you also mentioned this morning the Satins and Silks 5K. this morning.
Yeah,
Get a good turnout?
We had a great turnout. It was a perfect day. There was actually a
Was
little
Ramon
bit of a
there?
breeze.
Ramon had to be there.
Ramon was there, and he won his age category. I got to do the Tom Durkin impersonation of the Ramon Dominguez coming in first. The crowd goes wild. It was awesome. But yes, we had a great turnout. We had about 600 runners, and we had our horses there. We were very grateful that we were the beneficiary of this year's race. So we brought Kid Blast and DW's Regal, one thoroughbred, wed standardbred. They met the crowd, and then also our friends from Upset and the Dark Horse brought Little Upset, so he was there working the crowd, and we had a great time. It was a beautiful day, and I'm grateful for having all that crew, all the volunteers. I gotta say, big shout out to volunteers. If you happen to catch me here, I'm looking at you and saying thank you for getting up pretty early this morning. It's an 8 o'clock start, so it was an early morning.
600 people. Where was the 5K?
Thanks to our friends and Manny in particular at Fasig-Tipton. It starts and finishes right at the Fasig-Tipton Sales Pavilion. So it starts on east, heading away from the track, and then does a really pretty loop. Would you believe that my husband actually ran this 5K with me about 15 years ago? Yeah.
I thought you meant today.
Not today, but it's one
I was
we
going
ran.
to be impressed.
That would be impressive. I was impressed that he did that, and it was very fun. Thanks to all who came out and participated.
So you were working. You weren't running today.
Right. I was doing this. I was doing this thing, the talking thing.
So when you did run, how did you guys do?
Well, I used to run back in the day.
Okay.
So I was a bit more of a runner, and he was a participant. But we had a great. Funny thing is that I know he's going to hear that. He's going to
like the way you put that.
But we did it together. And the fun thing about that first time we ran that race, we sat on the stairs of a house on East Ave and kind of imagined living in Saratoga. Would you not believe that house was the one we ended up renting, that we then had barbecues in the backyard for years? So that's a beautiful neighborhood to run. So next year, put it on your calendar. Opening Saturday of the Saratoga meet is the Jeff Clark Memorial Silks and Satins, and it was fun for me.
I think I was at that house for something or other. And since you brought it up, it is worth mentioning. You guys were just, you and your husband, Bob, summertime visitors for a week or so. And then a few years ago, bang, you're in town and you're plugged in now to the business side of course, aftercare. Bob, of course, does the buyer speed figures. So that you wound up in Saratoga.
It's a dream come true. It is. It's really been wonderful. I was just meeting Joe Bianco here at the picnic table, and he said, how'd you get into horse racing? I'm like, well, when people get sick of me, they can blame my husband. It is all Bob Weir's fault that y'all get so much of me, but it's such a joy to be here. For sure.
And I will publicly applaud. You texted me the other day. Bob's going to the NHC.
We're going to Vegas, baby. I'm very excited about that. It's been a couple of years, and we're excited to go back.
And Bob's a contest player, and you guys were at the NHC a few years ago. I said,
you're going to join us.
I don't get enough time to play the contest. Last year, I missed by like a buck.
Yeah.
One of the last contests before they hit the deadline, and I just missed. But I got.
You got time. You got time.
And I keep telling people, if people aren't familiar with that, and I'm sure you would agree, having been out there.
Oh, it's so fun.
It's like a horse players convention. Everybody.
It is.
And it's competitive, obviously. But you sit in this big ballroom, and everybody's just shooting the breeze, and all like-minded people. It's a lot of fun. And so if you're not a contest player yet, there are plenty of opportunities online. Most tracks have their own contests as well. Jump in. And I think contest play you can hone your handicapping skills a little bit as well. So I have obviously taught it, but Vegas is great.
Oh my gosh, so much fun. Yeah, that is it. It's a little bit like the whole feeling. I feel like these opening weekend at Saratoga is like summer camp first day, and we're all back at summer camp. But this is like summer camp goes to Vegas. So that's pretty interesting. It's a fun combo.
So again, congratulations to Bob for scoring again and heading out there. Kim, I appreciate your stopping by this morning. As I say, a late call, and we appreciate your filling in. We'll get you for a more formal visit a little bit later on, where, as I say, I have the video that we can take a look at as well, because we took. And I'm curious now, how's the barn coming?
Oh my gosh.
They're building a new barn, and we were out there, and it was, I'm not going to say far along, but it was pretty, the basic stuff was all up. And I think you said they started like 3 days before.
Yeah.
And I was kind of like,
it's
wow.
A magnificent feat to watch. And I've had my dad, who many of you know, he also is very much around town. And he's been my photographer of time-lapse photography because it's happening so fast. And I can't wait to shoot you a picture of what it looks like. We'll have to include what it looked like the day you visited and what it looks like today. It will blow your mind. And I will tell you, the Amish workmanship is extraordinary, and they're fast. They stand up on top of the barn like the skyscraper construction guys. We see those old pictures. They just stand up there on the top of it like it's no big deal. But it is so close to done. It's amazing. So I can't wait for you to see it.
It was incredible how far they've gone in just the first couple of days.
Yeah,
so
that'll be an indoor arena for us to do our therapy programs.
Yeah.
So
And again, there are a number of buildings. We went in some of the buildings and went around the paddocks and checked out the horses. So we'll have that video next time you're on. Looking forward to that. But again, appreciate your stopping by this morning.
Thank you, Seth. Great to be here.
Kim Weir, Therapeutic Horses of Saratoga. We'll take one last break. I'll come back and wrap it up on this Saturday. Stay tuned.
Turn your love of racing into savings with equine discounts through the NTRA. Purchase through equine discounts and receive great savings on well-known brands like John Deere, Sherwin-Williams, Big Ass Fans, Farmers Insurance, and Office Depot. Join thousands of other equine members and support companies that give back to the sport we all love. Call 866-678-4289 or visit equinediscounts.com to start saving today.
Want to get your career in horse racing off to a fast start? Well, the University of Arizona's Racetrack Industry Program is your winning ticket. The Racetrack Industry Program has served as a springboard to some of the industry's most successful individuals, with a proven track record of job placement right out of college. If you want to earn a degree in the exciting horse racing industry, the Racetrack Industry Program can put you in the winner's circle.
What if there was a way to become a better horse player, to have a better knowledge of the game, to be more successful? What if there were a way to take what you've learned, what you know, and make better decisions, better choices? In horse racing, knowledge is a powerful tool. Race results and replays, past performances and live streaming, wagering from all your digital devices. Capital OTB. Become a better horse player.
Welcome back to Racing Across America. Welcome back and goodbye, essentially. But I'll just wrap it up here. Do want to remind you, the Play of the Day bankroll still open. That'll be open until about noontime tomorrow. Same thing with this week's Pick 3 bankroll team. So you can go to the website, capitalotb.com, click on the promotions link, look for the appropriate graphics, click on there and enter. Play of the Day team is an all-meet team. So the 50 folks that are selected, you're going to be on for the entire meet. The Pick 3 will be every Sunday, that bankroll team. So it's a new team every week. But again, both of these bankrolls are open online at capitalotb.com. Also, don't forget today at the Clubhouse Racebook, brand new contest, the King of the Hill. It looks like a lot of fun. I saw the printed materials a few weeks ago. Looks like it should be fun, kind of progressive throughout the day. And that all happens down at the Clubhouse Racebook this afternoon. 711 Central Avenue in Albany. And don't forget the bounty bet also today. It'll be Saturdays during the Saratoga meet. And that means that it's always the late pick 5, but I do want to stress some days if there's more races on a Saturday, there could be more pick 5s. So keep in mind, it's the late pick 5, the final pick 5, but you just play with your Capital OTB bet account and you are in for a shot at the bounty. Late pick 5, Saturday afternoons here at Saratoga. All right, Seth Merrow wrapping it up for Racing Across America on this Saturday morning. Nice day of racing ahead, as you've been able to see behind us all morning long. Nice sunny day. Should be a great afternoon of racing. Sanford, Diana, should be a lot of fun. Hopefully we gave out some good information this morning that will help you out. I'm really keeping my fingers crossed. It's my first 2 days. It has not been good information on the handicapping show, but we'll turn it around. We'll get it in the right direction as we progress here, and hopefully today we'll move in that direction. But hopefully you've been doing better over the past couple of days, and that will continue this weekend. We appreciate your tuning in this morning. Again, stay tuned all afternoon for great racing. Come on up here if you'd like. It's going to be a great day here. Swing by the Clubhouse Racebook if you'd like an alternative and a little AC. That's always positive as well. 711 Central Avenue in Albany. We'll be back on here tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. for the handicapper support, 10 a.m. for Loose on the Lead with Steve Bick. All of that tomorrow. We'll see you then.
You've been watching Racing Across America. Racing Across America has been brought to you by Pinnell's Restaurant, a Saratoga tradition since 1922. 284 Jefferson Street, Saratoga. just minutes from the track. And the Clubhouse Racebook, 711 Central Avenue, Albany. When you can't make it to the track, make it to the Clubhouse Racebook.